meeting.
Good afternoon. At this time, I'd like to call our City Council work session to order. I do have several announcements. Councilman Williams will not be attending the work session, and Councilman Fawcett has requested to attend virtually both the work session and the closed session. If that's the pleasure of council, a motion would be in order to do so. Councilman Goldberg.
So moved, Mayor.
Got a motion for approval, Councilman Goldberg. Councilman Johnson.
Second.
Mayor, there's actually official wording that has to be done.
Oh, I'm sorry.
To comply.
My bad. Thank you. You blame that on Councilman Goldberg. He jumped in there and just threw me right off track. Okay, well, hold your second, and we will recognize Vice Mayor Bennett to read the motion.
I move that Councilmember Roger Fawcett be approved to participate electronically in today's work session and closed session if one is held, because he is unable to be present because of a medical condition.
Councilman Goldberg.
I will second that, Mayor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Butler Barlow.
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett.
Yes.
Mayor Duman.
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 6-0.
All righty, we'll now move to our first and only item today on our work session, which is a 2045 Comprehensive Plan Update. Mr. Manager.
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, Interim Director of Planning and Community Development, Kevin Wine, will provide some brief introductory comments and also introduce our consultant who's with us this evening. Kevin?
Thank you, Mr. Manager, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. I want to thank you for this opportunity, which will be kind of our second update in the series here, to provide an update for you today on the project to update Suffolk's 2035 Comprehensive Plan. We're branding this update as Suffolk 2045, connecting our city, shaping our future, and you can see the logo on the screen here. As you all know, this is a community-wide process that we undertake every 5 to 6 years or so to take a fresh look at the changes that are occurring in Suffolk, in the region, and to ask ourselves if we are moving forward and making progress in ways that we had hoped for and planned for. The comprehensive plan is a guide for our future: land use, housing, transportation, parks and open space, public safety, schools, economic development, among other things. These updates and opportunities to engage the community in a conversation about our shared future. What challenges should we expect, and what opportunities should we prioritize working on together? You will be hearing today from Sarah Kelly. Sarah is a director with our consulting firm on this project. That's the lead consultant. Planning Next. Once again, they're leading this effort for us. And our goal today is to bring you up to date on our progress so far, to identify the next steps, and to continue hearing about the vision you all have for the future of Suffolk. So with that being said, Sarah Kelly.
Thanks, Kevin. Thank you so much for having me here this afternoon. I, first of all, apologize that we had to reschedule this by a couple of weeks. I was ill and unable to travel for a little bit, but happy to be here and speaking with all of you. You've also heard from my colleague and had some great insights already that you shared with my colleague, Logan Stang, who was here previously. Logan's leading the land use work for this planning process. I'm serving as project manager, helping to get our entire team of experts and folks working well together through this process. So really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you, because your input is so essential to making sure that we're on track as we go through the work. I have a few things I want to share this evening, but I'm going to keep it at a fairly high level and then invite you to please ask any questions that you'd like. There are a few moments when I may pause and ask you if you want to share anything, but at any time, you know, if you want some clarification on anything that I'm explaining, or you just have a thought that you really want to share, please feel free to do that. So there's three main things that I'd like to do. One is to give you an update on the stakeholder and public engagement effort that's underway. Two, I want to give you a little flavor for some of the technical analysis that we're conducting and some of the things we're starting to think about on that front, both with respect to land use, but also some other issues. And then also just make sure that I have a good understanding of how we can just be certain that our work is integrating your perspective as we move forward. Logan, I know, shared this at the last meeting, but just as a reminder, this is a conceptual representation of our schedule for the process. We're really in this phase 2 now, where we're diving in and conducting our analysis. We have been, at the same time, undertaking a really significant public engagement effort, and that's ongoing, but I do have some things to share with you about what we've heard so far, and that will continue through the summer into the early fall. I think it's really important to note that later in the fall, late November or so, we're going to be having a second opportunity for public engagement. That's going to be when we're going to be coming out and testing some of the ideas, some of our thinking about the direction we might go with the plan. It's all going to be in draft form, but that's going to be a chance for us to say to people, okay, this is what we think we heard in the first round. This is where we think we might go with some recommendations, and what do you think, and get feedback. So that's going to be really important. We'll then move forward with actually doing the plan updates through the winter and wrapping up that work into the spring. Just to share a few highlights from our stakeholder and public engagement, I think you all know that we have a wonderful steering committee that's been really active in the process so far. We've met twice already. We're going to meet again tomorrow night and really dive into some of the technical work that we've been doing. The steering committee has also been really great about helping us think about our public engagement effort and getting out. Councilor Goldberg, I know, has been out walking the streets and knocking on doors, and he's not the only one. He's serving as the chair of our committee, as you probably know. That's been really valuable, making sure this is a group that's really guiding us throughout the way. So the first round of engagement really has three components. The first is a series of focus group meetings that we held back in May. That's when some of my colleagues were here and spoke with you last as well. We have an online engagement component that I think it's more than just a survey. It's pretty robust. There's a map where people can enter comments, and we're getting a lot of great input there. And then there are some in-person opportunities. That's mostly being led by staff who's done an amazing job getting out there in the community. We're providing them with resources and information, and they're going out and trying to hear from people that way. We had 10 focus groups in May representing all of these different topics, really wonderful feedback, and a lot of comments that are going to help us to give some direction to our technical analysis. So for example, we have thoughts about what we need to focus on when it comes to housing, but when we heard from folks from that group, that gave us some insight into how to sort of really narrow it down and what we want to be concentrating on. The online activity, as I mentioned, this is still live. If you go to Suffolk45.org now, this is what you'll see at the top of the page, and you click on it. There's 5 big questions about the future that people can answer, and then there's a mapping activity if people want to talk about specific places in the city where they have comments and thoughts about what they want to see. As I mentioned, staff out at the public events throughout. They've done quite a bit in July and have some more planned. Our communication and outreach effort has been multifaceted. Newsletter, press releases, printed rack cards, social media, emails, targeted outreach to specific groups that we want to make sure that we're engaging. So for example, we have a representative from the schools, and she made sure that we got everything out on Peach Jar and got things, into the school system, those kind of things. So far we've had over 3,300 unique website visitors, people that have come to our site, individuals, and more than 1,500 people who have been engaged through this process. That includes focus group attendees, people who have done the online activities, and then people who've been at these pop-up events. There were 350 people that came by the table at the event last night, night out. So that was a really great chance. And again, I got to thank the staff for being there for that. The other thing I want to make sure you know is every single comment we get is databased, exactly word for word, what people write or what people type. So we have a big Excel spreadsheet. We then try to come up with themes that we're hearing emerging, and that's all going into a summary report that we're putting together that will be available to the public. So, a lot of times people ask, like, what's happening to my comment? They feel like it's going in a black hole. That is absolutely not the case. Each of those comments gets indexed and helps to inform our summary report, which then helps to inform our plan recommendations. And there's a lot of other things we've done. I mentioned the online engagement. Not everybody has access or is as comfortable online, so we do have paper surveys that we've put out at libraries, being the main venue, and made available to others. You can get them here at City Hall as well. That's a picture of the sign from this building. Other ways of getting the word out. Kevin there talking about the planning process on TV. So what have we heard? We've heard a lot. I have many pages of what we've heard, but I just want to highlight a few things because I thought you might be interested in some of the key themes. And I'm really curious to hear if these are things that you would expect or if there are any surprises here or anything else that you would want to share hearing these comments. A lot of people, when asked about what the city's strength is, talked about the sort of small town feel, the rural character being really important. At the same time, though, there are a lot of people that see opportunity in downtown investment and revitalization, right? So a lot of what I've taken away from the comments are the fact that people really appreciate the fact that Suffolk has a lot to offer, whatever you're looking for, right? So that there's not just one lifestyle that you can live in this community, that you really have a chance, due to the diversity of the place and the size of the place, to experience all of those things. Open space and parks viewed as a significant asset. A lot of people commented on that. A desire for residential and commercial development in the northern part of the city that's really well planned and coordinated. So a lot of folks saying happy to see development. Some folks maybe more neutral or having other thoughts, but a theme that resonated with me was people really wanting to make sure that it's carefully and strategically planned. Impacts of residential development were certainly noted, and I think a lot of the comments we got were from people who just said, again, just want to see that it's carefully managed. Traffic congestion noted as a challenge by many, but a lot of people, I think, appreciating the fact that you can't think of traffic congestion on its own, that it's linked to other types of decisions that are made in terms of land use, and that we as a, I say me, we already, but you all, as a growing and thriving, successful place, are going to be faced with that, and that your charge is going to be to think about what the opportunities are and how to best manage it going forward so that you're successful, that you're encouraging economic development, but also being mindful of what the needs are with respect to traffic. Desire for more entertainment, restaurants, recreation, retail in the city, amenities that are going to give people reason to want to stay in Suffolk and give people reason to want to move here. This is important for all kinds of people. I think for younger folks as well as empty nesters, it's particularly vital. Making sure that growth and development benefits not just some parts of the city, but the city as a whole. I think that'll probably resonate with all of you thinking about the constituents that you represent. It's really important for us to be hearing from folks throughout the city, and there's a real theme of people wanting to make connections, both sort of mentally and physically, and realizing that this is one city and that people share a desire for a good future. I'm going to stop for a minute. Any comments or thoughts on these, or would you like me to keep going? Keep going? Okay. So what comes next? I mentioned that the online survey is still up and will remain so into the fall. Hard copies of the materials are still available. When I talk with the steering committee tomorrow night, I'm going to give them a similar update on where we are, and we are poised to support them if any of them want to get out and try to reach some other constituencies, groups that may have been underrepresented through our process, or groups that they just want to make sure we're hearing from. We're going to actively support that, make sure they have the materials they need and instructions, and can try to get folks still make sure that we're hearing from folks in this first round. The next round of engagement, as I mentioned, in the fall is going to really focus on testing these ideas for updates to the plan. It's going to be multifaceted as well. We're envisioning that it will have both in-person, sort of open call workshop style meetings, so really bringing people together and making sure those are broadly promoted, but also maybe some targeted meetings that are focused on groups that we want to be certain that we're hearing from as we're really starting to develop the plan content. And then again, definitely continue to have an online presence. We love it when people come out to meetings, but not everybody is going to do that, and that's okay. So the online is going to be a really important supplement, even when we're holding these kind of workshop style meetings with, of course, non-digital opportunities as well. I'm going to just share, I just have a few more slides to share a little bit about the technical analysis that's underway. There's a lot more, there's a lot going on. Like I said, we have a really great team with a range of different technical expertise, but some of what we're doing, I'll just highlight for you now. So on the character and land use front, the land use plan, that's a component of this comprehensive plan, is really, I think, essential, kind of the core or the meat of what we're doing here. The previous plan, as you may know, has growth areas that are identified, as well as these use districts and different place type descriptions. So we're looking at all of that through this process, trying to understand a big part of what we're doing is what I would kind of call a capacity analysis. So looking at the growth areas, looking at what's happened in the last 7 years and what development has occurred, and then asking the question, looking out into the future about what development we might expect to occur, and whether what's in the previous plan can accommodate that. And if so, if we're identifying the right kinds of development that we wanted to see. So that is what we're trying to look at and get a handle on and determine whether those growth areas are generally good the way they are, whether they need some tweaking or whether they need significant modification. And really, there's a focus here on character. By that, I mean, it's not just about the uses, it's about the look and the feel of a place. So we're really trying through this process to add some value there. And so that people, so that we're really conveying not just, okay, this is a commercial area, this is a residential area, but like what are the development patterns? What's the intensity of use? What do the streets look like, and what is the place really going to look and feel like to the general public? In the previous plan, there were some what they call key considerations for land use. These are kind of principles to guide the work. This is something that we're looking at right now. There were 5 of them, and what we're trying to ask ourselves is, are these still the same principles? We're trying to draw from other work going on in the city. So, the visioning work, from council, I think, is something to overlay and make sure that we're coordinated with, but there are other things as well. In the previous plan, it talked about maintaining focused growth, expanding growth capacity, capturing new growth opportunities, coordinating transportation and land use, ensuring high-quality character of development, protecting natural resources and agricultural lands. These all seem really valid still based on what we've heard. There might be some things to add. For example, we do have an economist on our team. We're really looking at economic development, trying to tie land use to economic development better through this plan. That might be something to highlight in our principles. Also looking at the fiscal health of the city, making sure that our recommendations in the plan are tied to fiscal realities of what you're dealing with. I think that's embedded in the previous plan, but it's been a theme we've talked about a lot, so maybe it needs to emerge as something that, one of these high-level themes. You all might have thoughts on that. And I know I'll have a chance to speak with some of you all, or I think all of you in the next couple of days too, maybe about some of these topics. Just a few more things. In addition to the land use, there are some other critical topics that are emerging. Encouraging development that contributes to the local economy, as I mentioned, and quality of life. Aligning workforce with jobs, right? I think some of the steering committee members maybe knew this intuitively, but we had some data presented at our last meeting about the fact that there are a lot of people that live in Suffolk that don't work here, a lot of people that work in Suffolk that don't live here. That's not all necessarily a bad thing, but it's important to recognize and think about. So we want to be looking at that. Maintaining a variety of housing types to accommodate a range of preferences and household types and incomes. Preserving the assets that make Suffolk special, open spaces, mix of lifestyle options. That's what I was talking about earlier, the fact that there are, a lot of folks in this community saying, I really like the rural feel of where I live, but others who are looking for more amenities and resources and sort of vitality. So thinking about accommodating all of that. And then coordinating development with transportation planning. These are just this is the very high level, thinking about as we've looked at, these are some of the things that we've been focused on. Share a little bit about next steps. As I mentioned, we're continuing the public engagement effort, including planning for that second round of engagement. Welcome thoughts that you have on that. Now is probably the time to let us know, because we really want to start mapping that out now. I know we hate to admit that summer's going to be over, but we need to be thinking about it already. Preparing for the future land use, preparing the future land use concepts, preparing some initial ideas for recommendations and updates. So, right, those are what we're going to want to test in the fall with people, see if we're heading in the right direction. And then, of course, making sure we're continuing to keep you updated as we move along. So with that, I would open it up to any questions or comments or reactions you have. As I mentioned, I know I'll get a chance to talk with some of you and hear your thoughts then. So that's another opportunity. But if you have any questions or comments for me, I'm glad to take them now.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Kelly. Questions, comments from council? Councilman Goldberg.
Thank you, Mayor. For the last meeting that we had out at the Public Works, we had a nice conversation going on about the different issues that were brought up and where we're going, and I think you listed them properly as the discussion was going, and I'm looking forward to our meeting on Thursday night to talk about this some more, because I think we're getting good information, and then we can make a plan. But again, I think we all still need to remember, just like the 2035 plan or the 2025 plan or the 2045 plan, it's a plan. You try to do the best you can with what you have, and then things change along the way. So I think that's what we need to keep in mind the whole time. But I really appreciate your work and the effort that's going behind this. And there's a lot happening, especially when I walked some neighborhoods giving out that sheet that we had. Had some great comments from people on that. And so I think that's important to us. So I want to thank you again.
Thank you.
Councilperson Butler Barlow.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a quick question. The list of the feedback, so you had 8 different things on 2 different slides, starting with small town, rural feel. Are those prioritized, or are they all weighted about equally?
They're not
They're not in any
prioritized. I tried to
particular-
come up with the top 8, 9, or 10.
Right, but they're not
But
in
they
any
weren't
particular
They weren't
order.
necessarily in
Thank you.
any
And
priority
I'll be
order.
talking to you more tomorrow morning.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Vice Mayor Bennett.
Just a question, on the surveys that we are doing and passing out, when is the deadline for closeout on that? And how is that going to combine with the comments after, with the people that have made the questions and comments?
Yeah, so we decided to extend it. Originally, we were going to have it open through July 15th, and then we realized that we have a lot to work with, so we can start analyzing that, but we want to keep it open into the fall. We don't have a specific date yet. But I would say, we could certainly keep it open this month and September. I think by that point, we might want to take it down to try to start moving it to the next. But I don't see any reason why we can't keep it up there another good couple of months.
Okay, because what my concern was, I didn't know, I've had some people when I was passing out the
Yeah.
information for them to fill out, I couldn't give them a deadline of when it
Yeah.
would be closing out, so.
Yeah, they have some time. I would say we could keep it up this month, September, towards the end of September, we're going to have to start moving to the next week. We
Right.
also want to keep on schedule with this process, so, but hopefully that gives them plenty of time. I know August is tough because people are
Yeah.
distracted. So if we could move it a little bit into the fall, that might help some people.
Okay, because I know a lot of people are very interested in doing it, and I'm out of sheets too, Mr. Manager. I gave all mine out, I need some more. Yeah, I didn't get any more because I didn't know when the deadline was, so. That's good information, and I think
Great.
people is really energized, and they're excited about trying to get their input, because we hear all this stuff that you put up there about traffic and all the other stuff, so that gives them opportunity to express themselves, so I do appreciate it.
Yeah. And it's been great. I have to say, the quality of comments we've been getting has been great. It's not set up just check a box. There's people can enter, and some people, they go for it. It's great. It's been really nice to see that.
Okay, Councilman Fawcett, if you're listening, do you have any comments?
No, Mayor, I just didn't, thank you.
You okay? No questions or comments?
No, Mayor, I'm good, nothing this time.
Okay, thank you. If there are not any other questions or comments, I just have a few of both. First of all, I want to thank Councilman Goldberg for serving on the committee and also chairing that committee. It's a lot of work involved. I've become a big fan of process, and I think we have the appropriate process in place that allows our citizens to engage, to get their thoughts and their viewpoints as to what they feel like our city needs to look like in the next 10 years. I know there's a lot involved. I was going to question, there was a statement up there about making sure that growth and development benefits not just one part of the city, but the city as a whole. And when you refer to those benefits, is there something specific that we're talking about as far as distribution of those benefits? What benefits specifically are we looking at?
That's a really hard question.
Good question.
But, at the highest level, I always think about just quality of life, right? Just making sure that people feel when they look at this plan, and then 10 years from now, when it's implemented, that you can look around the city and say that people have a better quality of life, not just in one part of the city, but throughout the city. More specifically than that, I think there are some things, we might not be far enough along in the process for me to say, but, for example, as we look at economic development and job opportunities, I think there are maybe some indicators that we could write into the plan about if we're successful, right? Suffolk will have, and folks throughout the city will have more opportunity in these areas. So maybe what I would say is that I think beyond just general quality of life, there probably are some things that we can look at, but I don't know yet. We haven't yet decided what those indicators are.
Okay. Well, I was thinking, when it comes to benefits, sometimes some of our residents, benefits is having a grocery store nearby, it's having a movie theater, it's having more shopping nearby.
Yeah.
But there's a trade-off. I mean, we have a diverse city, so if you're living in a rural area, the likelihood of that happening is not there because we need the rooftops to attract the private investment from the retail standpoint. So lots of times we got our folks, I guess it gets down to you can't have your cake and eat it too. So we have such a diverse city regardless of the lifestyle that you would like to have. I mean, we are very, 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 we are blessed in this city. If you want to live not so close to your neighbors, if you want to live someplace where you don't even see your neighbors, you can do that. If you want to live in an environment, mixed-use development environment, if you want to live in an apartment and you don't want to mess with grass and you want to be able to walk out your front door and do shopping, you can do that, but you can't do both. So we have to determine, through this process where those particular areas are going to be, where we're going to devote our resources. A lot of it has to do with infrastructure. Where there's infrastructure, there's going to be density when you're as large as we are, because not everybody has water, not everybody has sewage, not everybody has broadband right now. So, but that's coming. But my point is, we have the luxury of individuals being able to determine what type of lifestyle they would like to have. And we can probably offer it someplace.
Yeah.
But there is a trade-off between one and the other. So I just want to kind of bring that out again because it does come out a lot where folks want to know, why don't we have this here and why do we don't have there? We do not go out and drag it. We do not go out and drag businesses here and tell them where they have to locate. They're going to do their market analysis and they are going to go with our rooftops to shop in their businesses. So just wanted to mention that for a sec. I'm very interested in your capacity analysis. Capacity analysis, just I assume, is analyzing what type of population growth that we're projected for. And I think we have those numbers out there that have been projected over the next either 10 or 20 years. So the question becomes, if our population is projected to grow 10, 15%, another 10 or 15,000 people in the next 10 years, where are they going to live? Within our city, where are they going to live? That's the capacity issue. So not only where, but what type of housing they're going to need. So you need the numbers, you need what type of housing, and then how are we going to take that need for capacity and plug it into what parts of our city? Because that's what it's going to look like. So I know there's a lot involved, and I'm very, very interested in the work, live, work deal. That's awesome. To know that, to be able to take a look at it and say, selling cars, they call it pump in, pump out. You get somebody else's customer from one marketplace and you lost one of yours someplace else. So the question becomes, those that are living here and don't work here, what type of jobs are they going to? And can we promote that type of job? And then conversely, if they work in here and live in someplace else, what are we doing that are attracting those jobs? And then try to fill that gap looking down the road based on how our population is going to expand. So it's very, very interesting and a lot of work. And like we talk about process, I'm looking at the composition of the committee. It's very, very, very diverse. There's literally every single facet, both population-wise, business-wise, agricultural side. There's a lot of input. So I'm 100% on board with what you're doing. Keep up the good work. Councilman Goldberg, keep up the good work. Go ahead, you have another comment? Let me get you turned on here. Not
Thank
that
you.
way. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. And this might be off out of bounds right now, I don't know. We also have a fiduciary responsibility up here to see how all this works and how it all blends. Is that still in consideration? Do y'all look into that, or does that just sort of fall to us to worry about?
No, I mean, we have a team member who's doing some fiscal analysis, specifically looking at what our recommendations might end up being on the land use side of things and asking the big questions about, is that development going to pay for itself, or do we need to think? So they will be looking at that, and they're going to be, one of the products will be a fiscal model that could be used to try to understand, as things evolve over time, what the impacts are for the city. So that is part of the work, yeah.
Okay, hearing no other questions or comments. Ms. Kelly, thank you very much for
Great,
your
thank you very much.
presentation.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Okay, that concludes our work session, and at this time, I understand we have a motion, a need for a closed meeting. And Madam Clerk, would you please present the motion for consideration?
Item number 1, pursuant to Virginia Code Sections 2.2-3711A8 and A1, consultation with legal counsel employed by a public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the legal advice of such counsel, and the discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for appointment, and the assignment, appointment, and performance of specific public officers or appointees of the city, specifically the appointments as shown on the attached list for vacancies and term expirations for the Agricultural Advisory Committee, the Clean Community Commission, the Early Childhood Development Commission, the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission, the Human Services Advisory Board, the Local Board of Building Code Appeals, the Sister Cities Commission, the South Side Area Network, Tidewater Youth Services Commission, and the Western Tidewater Water Authority. Item number 2, pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A3, the discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for a public purpose or of the disposition of publicly held real property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position and negotiating strategy of the public body, specifically tax map parcels 34G18A *318 *320, 34G18A *319, 34G18A *344, and 34G18A *355.
Council, a motion's been presented for consideration. What's your pleasure? Councilman Goldberg.
Move for approval, Mayor.
A motion for approval from Councilman Goldberg, Vice Mayor Bennett.
Second.
Second from Vice Mayor Bennett. Any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Butler Barlow.
Yes.
Councilmember Fawcett.
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett.
Yes.
Mayor Duman.
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 7-0.
This meeting stands adjourned, and we will reconvene at 6 p.m.